We are trying a different approach today. Welcome to another episode of the Domenik Adamoski Show. It is me, Domenik Adamoski, and if you're wondering why am I not on screen today, well, I wanted to try out an experiment. I wanted to see how well you guys respond to an audio-only version of this show. Also, the space I was going to use for green screen recording is currently in use. But I still have a lot of tech news to discuss this week, and it is a lot of stuff, and we better get on. My first piece of tech news this week involves Apple. And this week, Apple hired legendary designer Mark Newson to work alongside Johnny Ive. Johnny Ive and Mark Newson have a long history of working together for different projects and whatnot. And I think this is a great addition to Apple because this is now the dream team of design. They both create amazing designs, and I think with both of them working on things, only good things can come from this deal. My second news story this week involves Motorola. This week, Motorola had a big press conference that had been rumored for months to announce many new devices. One of the things they announced is that the Moto 360 is now available for purchase for $250, which I think is a great price, seeing that you're getting a beautiful looking Android Wear device. The other thing they announced was a new Moto X with a Snapdragon 801 processor, 2 gigs of RAM, a 5.2-inch 1080p display, and 16 or 32 gigs of memory, as well as front-facing speakers. They also announced a new Moto G. For $179, you can get a HD screen, front-facing speakers, a quad-core processor, and unfortunately, no LTE at the moment. Then they announced another new device called the Moto Hint. And this is a little device that sits in your ear. It looks like a Bluetooth device that Motorola used to make, and it notifies you about notifications from your Android device, which I think is kind of interesting, but they priced it well at $80. All in all, I'm very impressed with what Motorola announced at this event. I am really looking forward to seeing what the Moto X has in store because already people that have the device are saying that this is the Android device to buy. Forget the OnePlus One. Forget the Nexus 6. This is the device to get. And I think that's a pretty bold comment from a $400 price point device. My third and final news story this week involves Samsung. And this week they announced 2 new devices, and one of which I'm actually not that angry about. They released a brand new Samsung Galaxy Note 4. And this is pretty nice in terms of hardware. It has a Snapdragon 805 processor, a QHD display running at 2560 by 1440 resolution, 16 megapixel camera, and 4 gigs of RAM. This device seems like it is a powerhouse, and I think it is quite interesting because it also has metal on it. And from what I've heard, it's actually a pretty nice device. The only thing I could see that's wrong with it is the usual issue with all Samsung phones. This is TouchWiz. I am a fan of pure Android, but if you can actually make use out of TouchWiz, this might be a phone you get. However, the next phone Samsung released at this event isn't one I would necessarily buy. This is one of Samsung's big tests to see how well it works in the environment of the mobile industry. This device is the Galaxy Note Edge, and it is the exact same device as the Galaxy Note 4, except it has a little bend in the display right near the right-hand side. So that little bend acts as a little tiny extra bit of the phone. And I think that's going to be a flop, and no one's going to actually buy this because the functions you can do with that little end bit are not really that useful. You can have your app drawer on the side there, and you can get little notifications and stuff from there. I personally wouldn't buy that phone, but the Galaxy Note 4 does look like a nice device, as did the Note 3. However, you still have to deal with the horrible TouchWiz, which I would not buy for that particular reason. However, if you were going to root this phone or you are right with TouchWiz, I would definitely recommend looking at the Galaxy Note 4, especially since this is one of the first phones that Samsung has ever made that has metal on it, which people are saying makes it feel more premium. However, I think it's just copying, but, I'm an Apple guy. What can I say? So that concludes another episode of the Domenik Adamoski Show. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know how you like this approach to the show. I could do this more often. I could actually offer this show on iTunes if I did it this way, because then I wouldn't have to pay for video bandwidth, which is very expensive and my site can't actually host because bandwidth is expensive. But let me know how you like this, because I could do this every week. Anyways, I'm Domenik Adamoski. I'll talk to you next week. Keep it trill.